Hi, welcome everybody. This is the How to Get Jobs in the Games Industry discussion. I plan on just kind of going over a little bit of like the do's and don'ts of what it takes to get into the industry. I usually speak for about 20, 30-ish minutes, and I'm going to leave the rest of the time open for questions in case you guys have any. But feel free to pick my brain. That's what I'm here for. Who am I? I am Scarlet Dangerfield. I am the talent director at High Res Studios. I handle all their recruiting and their human resources. Prior to that, I was at Xavient Studios, which is another game studio up in Cumming, Georgia. And then prior to that, I was at CCB Games, which is located down in Decatur, Georgia. I've been in the games industry for about 7 years now. Prior to that, I was doing human resources at government consulting companies up in Washington, D.C. I kind of lucked into games, but I'm going to talk more about how you should seriously get into games in a moment. So what I've kind of done is broken down the 3 stages of getting into the industry. A little bit about what it takes before you can get an interview in the games industry, a little bit about how to prepare for that interview, and then finally what to do after that interview. So first thing I would do is just research the different kind of fields. Since you guys are all in school, I'm assuming that you're already kind of handling that for the most part, but there's lots of stuff that people can do in the games industry. You don't have to actually just make games, but you can. So there's administration, we have our office service functions, we have human resources, which is myself. We have a lovely finance team, IT team, which helps keep all of our employees hooked up with the internet. They are probably my favorite people because you never want to piss them off. Everybody needs internet. Our legal team, another group you never want to make mad. Just marketing, PR, and community. It's probably one of the more fun jobs in our industry just because they're the ones that get to interface a lot more with our players. Customer support. A kind of thankless job, but we love them and need them because they keep everyone happy and get them fixed when issues pop up. And then kind of the more popular known about things, game design, our engineering team, QA, level design, animation, our producers, our audio and video team, which that's also a super fun team. Our video team, they just make new videos every day for our YouTube channel at High Res. And they have a blast. I'm very jealous of them most days. And then we have a massive art team, our character art, concept artists, environment, lighting, texture, VFX. They are all amazing. These are all possible careers. All right, so first what I would do is research your desired profession, which again, I said you guys are kind of already doing that. You're in school. Number one thing to do. Getting internships. There's amazing books out there just about different jobs in the games industry, kind of career guides, pointing you in the right direction. Also, there's TV shows. Silicon Valley, I know it's not about making games. It is about making software, and to be honest, if you guys have watched that show, who here has seen that? It's pretty accurate to what we deal with on a daily basis, and I know that seems odd and it's completely goofy, but it's a lot of times of just people on whiteboards coming up with random solutions and then actually being what we do. So it's fun. It's accurate. Code Monkeys, another TV show on, I think it's still on Netflix. I know it was when I put this together a little while ago, but it gives you a good depiction, minus cartoon form, but it's a good depiction of what we go through. All right, so you feel like you know what you want to apply for, or at least you know what you want to become. I would start looking at the game companies that you want to work at and start reading the job descriptions for those jobs. So you're like, sweet, I want to go do level design on World of Warcraft. That's like my dream job, I'm gonna do it. Go on Blizzard's website, read what that takes to do that. They're gonna be very specific, like, hey, you need blank years of experience, you need this kind of degree, we wanna see mods of you actually making levels for World of Warcraft. Like, that's what we want in our applicants. Start just getting a good understanding of what it takes to do the kind of job you want. So at least you can start knowing, like, all right, I'm in college now, this is what I need to do to get to there, where I wanna be. You're gonna apply for a job. Back to reading that job description, make sure you're actually applicable for that job. Then go ahead and put together your resume for it. Do unique cover letters and objectives in your resume. Don't try to, we get spammed a lot, and High Res, we make a game called Smite. It's very similar to this game called League of Legends, in case you've heard of it. People will send us applications, resumes, saying, hey, I really want to work at Riot. You're like, you guys are applying to the wrong place. That's awesome, good luck. It'd be a great company to work for. So you want to kind of tailor your cover letter for each job that you're applying for. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but really when you're applying for a job, it's like a job at that point. You want to spend that 40-ish hours a week applying for jobs and taking the time to do that kind of stuff because it makes a huge difference. I'm just the first gatekeeper So I go through all the resumes, I read all the cover letters before I send them to the hiring managers to review. And that's really what I'm looking for. I'm like, this person's super passionate about working at high res. They like Smite, or they love like different goddesses in our game, whatever. Like whatever will make you stand out and make me think this person's going to be very hungry to work here. So this is a cover, similar to the Riot example. This is a cover letter I received when I was at CCP Games. They wanted to go work at Monolith. That's awesome. Like, good luck at that, but that wasn't us at the time. Stuff like this will get you passed over. And this is an example of a really well-written cover letter. If you guys want to take a moment to read that, if you can see it from all the way back there. But they make it very clear, like, why they want to work there, how it's applicable to the company, like, what makes them special. Like, this is the kind of stuff that you start reading and get really excited about this person, and that's kind of the ones that you want to forward on to the hiring manager and hope that they get hired. Cool. Next, proofread your work. Once you got that resume all together, your cover letter together, this seems silly. Have everyone you know read it. Like, mom, dad, dog, it doesn't matter. Just have someone take a look at it. Because we get this. It is. And at first I was like, well, maybe English is not their actual first language. It was. So this is what happens when you write your cover letter on your iPhone right before, like, while you're applying. Like, just take the time to, like, put some attention into it. So. So as long it hurts your eyes to read it. But if you can at least do better than this, like you're a step ahead. Sorry. And then I have an example of a really well done resume, which I hope I can share this presentation with you guys maybe so you can keep this afterwards. But like this, like it's very clear. You can see their name, where they live, their address, so I can contact them later. You definitely want phone numbers and emails all in there always, because that's my main form of contact with you. And then just it's really well laid out, like dates of employment, who they worked for, their job, and then what they did. Bullet points are a really good, easy way to go. I think I even just Googled like a good example of a resume on Google, and that's the first thing that came up. So in case I can't share this with you. Do the work yourself. Seems like a very odd thing for me to say, but I've also received this email. So I was at CCP Games. I received an email from a very loving father who really wanted to get his daughter a job there.
Oh my God.
And it's sweet, like he really obviously cares about his daughter, but when I look at this, I'm like, this daughter doesn't care about getting a job here. Like, the father just really wants her out of the house, like, which I understand, that's something that happens to all of us, but make sure that you're applying for stuff yourself. It's great if you have networking connections, which is something we'll probably talk about in a couple minutes, but at least just kind of put that first foot forward yourself when possible. And update your portfolio. I receive this quite often. When I get this, I'm like, I don't know what you do. I don't know what you want to do. It's literally just the blank screen. Make sure your portfolio is up and running before you start applying anywhere. I'll even send out emails like, hey, I'm super excited that you're excited to work here. Can you send me your portfolio? Oh, it's not done yet. All right, you're getting declined at this point. Like, sorry, but go ahead and apply once you have that kind of put together. And this is the kind of stuff that you should be sending. Do we have any artists in here? Yeah, there you go. So stuff like this, like beautiful environment art pieces where you can see like different, like the progression of where you're going, different kind of visual aids of what you've done. We have more pieces coming up. I like this one. So when I was at CCP, we were making a vampire themed game. Like stuff like that where you're like, it is. For artists, I would highly recommend if you want to work on League of Legends, take the characters out of that game, make them yourselves, and that's what you want to have in your portfolio. They want to see pieces that are like, oh, if this person worked here, they already have stuff that we can put directly in the game. That's stellar. And they already know that you can do their style of work because they can see it on your portfolio. And I'm not saying just have all your pieces like riot pieces. If there's a couple different companies you want to work at, try to vary it. But at least that also shows diversity of, all right, I want to work on League of Legends. I also want to work at like on EVE Online for CCP. All right, have some spaceships, have some different characters from LoL, and then good to go. Know as much about my company as possible. So you've applied, you have like a phone interview with a recruiter. You have to realize most recruiters work at those companies because they love that company. Like I love Jetpack Fighter. It's our mobile game that we make at High Res Game. It's free to play in case you haven't heard about it. But like I play this thing constantly. Like know about that. Know what games that we offer and just sound excited about it because I'm super excited about it. And those are the kind of people like I want to also speak with. People I'm like, oh, this person's super passionate about this. And then practice, practice, practice. You get that interview, you can download millions of questions off Google of what kind of questions will you get in an interview. Find as many as you can and just kind of start going through those in your head. The question that always stumps me, and I've done this for 12 years now, tell me about yourself. And you're like, I'm great. But you need more than that. So just kind of figuring out like what would be like my 30-second elevator pitch. Tell them about like your educational background, any kind of projects that you've been doing while at school, any kind of mods that you do in your free time, passion projects. We love to hear about passion projects, especially for game designers or level designers, if we have any of those. Yeah, that's what we want to hear about. Like anything that you've made, anything that you're super excited about, that's what we want to know. But with the practicing, this is kind of back to my comment earlier, parents, girlfriend, boyfriend, brother or sister, just give them the list, have them go through these questions, and just keep practicing. Once you get a little bit more comfortable with it, it makes a world of difference. Like, I have plenty of interviews where people are nervous, and that's cool. It's going to happen to all of us, again, even myself. But just not stumbling on those questions of, tell me about yourself, what have you been doing at school, just kind of at least getting like a baseline for that. It's good to go. All right, kind of do's and don'ts during the interview. Be excited. We are super excited to have you there. If you get to the point where you have an on-site interview, you probably have about a 50% chance to get this job. Most people won't fly people in, bring people on-site unless they know like, I really want to hire this person and this is kind of that make or break point. So get excited. They don't always work out, but most likely it will, and just kind of show them that kind of enthusiasm while you're there. Expect a test. There is not a single position I can think that we have that we do not test people for. So it will be either like a test at home, like for our level designers, we will send them out, use this engine, create something like this. We test for all levels in the company as well. So if you're fresh out of school as an intern, if you're a senior character rigger coming in, everyone gets tested. Don't take it personally. It doesn't mean that we don't think that you're fabulous based off your portfolio. It just means that we want to see that you can do what you say that you can do. Also, really every step of the interview is kind of a test. From the moment where you walk in, you meet a receptionist, we're going to ask her what her thoughts are on you. So if you come in and you're like, oh my God, I'm so mad to be here, traffic was awful, she's going to tell us that, and it's going to be it'll be uncomfortable. So just remember, like, that whole thing is test, and we have you there because we think you're going to do good at it. So ask questions. We do full day interviews at High Res. We did those also at CCP. That's pretty standard. So they'll usually start around like 10 in the morning. We'll usually keep you there till 3 or 4. We might take you out for dinner afterwards, something along those lines. So you will meet with a boatload of people. Ask questions. Ask questions to all of them. You're interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you because you really want to know if you want to work there. Even if you ask everyone the same question, that's completely cool because they might give you different answers. It's kind of good to know for consistency. Like, does everyone feel this way about their manager? That might happen to be your manager as well. So just kind of getting like a really good feel for the company and pick their brains as much as possible. It's also really good to know how they got their jobs as well. So it's kind of cool to find that out. And then finally, after the interview. So back to that 50% of the chance you might get the job. Unfortunately, 50% of the chance that you might not. Take it constructively. Pick the brain of the recruiter, try to get business cards while you're at the interview so you can email people and say like, hey, what could I have done better? What was missing from my portfolio? What should I do for next time? And definitely don't do stuff like this. I have a friend, Lindsay, who does recruiting she was at Big Huge Games before they closed. So she got this email saying, you will meet me one day, Lindsay, because I'm going to work in the games industry. Whatever it takes. You're missing out on a chance of a lifetime.
Okay.
So, considering I have this email, like, the recruiters are also very, like, networked. The games industry is super small. Like, you know each other. So she sent this, she's like, oh my God, I can't believe I received this. I received one like this. I need better than this auto message. I'm a qualified person. Why am I not getting this internship? Cool. All right. He at least has good intentions of why am I not getting this job. It's probably a little better method of how to reach out to the recruiter on why he didn't get the job. I would always say don't do it this way, but at least do something like this of like, hey, I'm super bummed I didn't get the job. Can you at least let me know what I could have done better next time? So in this case, it wasn't anything that he did. We just found a person that was overqualified and we snapped her up. So, and always follow up with a thank you note. I know it's super old school. It does not have to be in writing. An email is completely fine. I've seen people also save really bad interviews with this. I had a friend that was interviewing over at Cartoon Network. He went, he did awful, but he made a mental note when he was in there talking to the guy that would have been his boss of like what that guy would want to see in a candidate. And I think it was for a marketing position. He's like, I want someone that's going to come in every like Monday with like 99 new ideas. So he spent his whole weekend, I think it was over a holiday kick, and that's all he did. He just came up with new marketing pitches for Cartoon Network, and then he submitted them on that Monday, even though he knew he did not get the job, and they still called him back to come back in for another interview. So stuff like that, just thank you, I'm super excited, I'm sorry I didn't get it, but he kind of at least wiggled his way back into an interview there through that. And never give up. My closest friend is a recruiter over at Blizzard. He has wanted to work there ever since he was a small person. I'd say he's probably in his 30s like I am. He interviewed there, I want to say maybe 6 or 7 years ago. He did not get the job. He went over and worked at Disney for a couple years, but he kept applying, and sooner or later he finally is working there now. He's been there for about a year. So it's kind of one of those things like, okay, you got turned down from blank this year. Keep applying, keep trying, keep growing, keep updating your resume, your portfolio. It's definitely something that you can get in the future. Just never give up. And that's really it. I've kind of left the rest open for questions. Thoughts, concerns? Yes?
What internships help if you, not up to that game industry, but you had an internship that dealt with making games?
Definitely.
Then you put that on your resume, that would help too, right?
Yes, definitely. And you said you wanted to do game design or level design?
Programming, writing, and games.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you have anything that really touches any of those 3 fields or anything that like you can kind of weasel out of the internship that you can make sound like it touches one of those 3 fields, as long as it's accurate, I would definitely include that, yes. So, and also any kind of like samples of any work that you had from that. Cool. You're welcome. Yes.
When interviewing for a job or taking applicants, how many viable applicants do you get that are actually you would consider hireable?
It depends on the field, and I don't want to scare anyone in certain positions here. For programmers, never enough. We never get enough applicants or viable applicants. That is a very hard field to find people for. Unfortunately, for environment artists, they are something that we get an overabundance of. So if you're in environment art now, think, hey, texture art might be kind of cool. Lighting. We never find enough lighting artists as well, texture modelers. These are people that are highly in demand. So it really just kind of depends on the field. But I think we have, like right now, a community artist position open, and we probably have gotten over 200 applicants, but there's probably like maybe 5 to 10 people that actually read the job description and can actually make the kind of specific kind of art that we're looking for. So it really just depends. Oh, yes?
From your experience, what are some good sites to prep a portfolio?
Are you on ArtStation by any chance? Or any kind of art forum group?
No.
That's okay. What I would do is probably sign up for like an account on maybe Polycount or ArtStation and share your portfolio on there. That way at least other artists in the industry that are trying to help people grow can review your portfolio and just give you different kind of tips on what you can do to make it better or what they would want to see.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes?
How common are audio engineering with lighting? Is it a pretty competitive field in the game industry?
I would say there's definitely not enough people that that focus on audio. But I would also say that not a lot of companies have very large audio engineering teams. So I think at CCP we might have had, we had 600 employees. We probably had about 150 to 200 programmers, and maybe like 5 to 10 of them were probably audio engineers. So it's definitely something that it's out there, and there's definitely not a lot of them out there, but it's also a little hard to kind of find those jobs. Sorry. Let me go for the guy in blue.
My question is,
Yeah.
how impactful is it to have repositories, open source repositories like GitHub, for the position? Like, do you want to see more of a repository presence, and what projects you've been working on, how often you've been putting content up? Does that impact the hiring process?
To be completely honest, it does not affect me as I'm screening. So whether you have that or not, I'll still usually pass people over to the hiring manager as long as they have the right programming languages in their resume that we're looking for. And those are the people that we definitely scrutinize pretty heavily with tests as well. I would say our programmers end up getting multiple rounds of tests, where let's say our level designers unfortunately would only get one. So, you're welcome. Yes.
I've talked to a lot of my peers, and they've been across the board from programmers to artists.
Uh-huh.
I was always concerned with the application process of you may have the skill set or the knowledge and the know-how and the passion, but it always requires like maybe having a published game.
Mm-hmm.
How often, if or if not, can a candidate be forgiven if they have like a golden portfolio if they haven't had a published game?
All the time, constantly. If you are, let's say, an artist that has pieces that we're like, man, like we could just pop that into the game right now, and you never shipped a game, completely fine. We were still pretty stoked about that. I'd say even for like level design, if you've made mods for games that, let's say, our level designers are super into, they're not going to be too stressed on that factor. I would probably say, I think the rule is if you have about like 75% of what's in the job description, if you have experience in that, I would definitely still apply. Worst case scenario, you get turned down, apply again in a couple years. Like it's or not even a couple years. Apply again sooner than later. So.
Because I don't believe in saying that I can do more than what the application says. So
Yeah.
would you note that in one of the bullets that you may not have a published game, or
Mhm.
do you need to say that?
You don't need to say that. We'll definitely notice whether you have it or not. When we look at resumes, we'll look for the companies that you've worked at. We'll look at the kind of games that you've either shipped or worked on, if we can find information available. So we'll definitely know whether you do or not. But to be honest, the first thing I'm looking at is portfolios before I even read the resume.
Thank
Cool.
you.
You're welcome. Yes.
I've been hearing sort of mixed answers all day, and I know it depends on the size of the studio, but high-res size studio.
Yes.
For someone applying, I know you guys have specific positions, but I hear like you want someone who can program but also can delve into art or into sound and things like that.
Mhm.
Are you guys more particular on what you want? Like, do you want us to focus on a particular thing that we're good at, or do you want us to be a little more broad and be able to do other things as well?
What I have seen with that is that it matters on the size. It matters on the size of the studio. Exactly what you're saying. When I was at Xavient, the owners of Xavient also own Blue Mammoth Studios, which they make a game called Brawlhalla, which is it's a 13-person team that's making that game. On that team, yes, people have to be jack of all trades. We had our monetization specialist was also our producer. Like, you have many hats on that team. We're at Xavient. I think our Smite team is probably maybe around 100-ish people. Everyone is very like in specific functions. Like, you're doing concept art, and that's all you're going to be doing. So once you kind of hit studios, I would say probably 40 to 50 people and higher. They're going to be looking more for specific individuals to fit certain roles versus people that can kind of help out with everything. Cool. More questions? Yes.
I feel like the biggest issue is I'm a programmer, and
Mhm.
I don't know how good my portfolio is. And if you guys aren't hiring, can I send my portfolio to you guys and just say hold on to it, or is it something you guys take into account, or
Yeah, I mean,
get feedback, I guess?
for programmers, we don't really look at their portfolios as much. It's going to be more test-based.
Okay.
If you have like a line of games that you've made and you want someone to check it out, I would definitely send them over. Whether we have positions open or not, like our company is very much into the whole nurturing young talent and trying to give back to the Georgia games industry. So we're definitely willing to take the time to go ahead and help out and provide feedback with that.
Okay, basically all I've done is I have a website that just has YouTube videos of
Mm.
the thing, and if you want to download
Okay.
the files,
Yeah.
is that something you guys would even look at, or you just look at the portfolio and kind of go from that?
I definitely think they would review it if you wanted them to.
Okay.
So, cool. Guys, got like 20 more minutes. Any other questions? Yes.
When you worked at SAIC, which,
Yes.
was that in the DC area? or-
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious. There's a SAIC branch down here, and I worked at a competing contracting company at the time, so I was just curious if you
Okay.
ever competed on local contracts.
Probably not. When I was at SAIC, it was the Naval, I think Naval and Maritime Business Solutions unit. So we handled mostly anything with ships. And one of our teams was training dolphins and seals. It was pretty cool. Like they would swim around like submarines if there was like a bomb attached to it and notify people. I know it's weird, but I hired people that could train seals and dolphins to do that. It was kind of cool. It wasn't a bad job.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Yes.
I suppose, how much are you willing to teach? For instance, like if I knew the correct programming language, but you guys want to work in Unreal, but I've only worked with Unity,
Mhm.
would it be like, oh, you don't know the program, or would you guys be more lenient with it because it's similar enough?
If you have the right attitude, you don't even have to know the language. We do, Paladins is mostly in C++, and I think we hired a guy recently that just knew C#, but he got into the beta and he is really excited about it and just very hungry for it. So we're like, this is something that, all right, it might take a couple months for you to get fully like up to speed, but it's worth it at that point. So if there's a game that you definitely want to work on, people are gonna be willing to help, I would say. Yes.
Do you possibly have any workers that work not in the studio but at home?
Employees that work from home? No. We all have contractors that will work off-site, but it's such a collaborative process that the game developers work in.
Is most game companies like that or like?
Depends on the role. So I would say if you're more looking for, let's say, like non-game development, like me as a recruiter, I could work from the moon. I could do my job from anywhere, it'd be fine. But if you want to be part of the game development process, they work just so closely together that they usually want them on site. I would say I definitely have interviewed a lot of people from more indie studios, which they kind of will be a little more spread out. But yeah, usually for the bigger ones, they'll want you there. Yes.
About the process of after you're hiring, is it probable that they find out that you're not a fit after you've been hired, like a few months in, and then is that frequent, or are they more willing to teach, or?
That I would say is going to depend on the studio. It's not so much that you would not be a fit, like if you still have that right attitude, most studios are willing to make it work. I know that Riot does something kind of cool. It's called the Q Dodge, which if you feel like after, I want to say it's 90 days, if you feel like you're not a fit, you can actually opt out of working there and they'll give you, I think, like 10% of your annual salary at that point, which is kind of interesting because they have a very, it's very a culture intense company. So like if you feel like you do fit into that culture, awesome, they're probably more than happy to keep you. If you feel like you don't though, it's kind of an easy way out. I don't know if they really do that from the other side, or if the management doesn't feel like you're a fit, if they would let you go that quickly. Usually you kind of want to give someone like 6-ish months in a new job to get them fully up to speed before you kind of make any of those calls. But even in those situations, it's going to really depend on the company. I know high res we try to be very loyal to our people and try to find, all right, you might not be a fit in this role or with this team. We have another team right upstairs doing something similar. Maybe you could be a fit up there. Maybe you could be fit on a new project. We would try to figure out something before we took that kind of drastic of a step. Cool. Yes.
How big is your IT department?
I think right now we have 2 interns. They're lovely. And on top of that, I want to say we have maybe 5 or 6 more. And then we have other teams that kind of support our IT team. So our esports facility, they work really closely with our IT team, but they're not part of, I guess they have separate management functions, but they do kind of similar roles as well.
Because I work in a data center,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm working to get a CCNA
Mm-hmm.
right now. And I was thinking after that I was gonna fly out and try to find, you know, a game developer, game development company. I was just wondering, like, is that somebody that y'all use?
Definitely, definitely. So we have our IT team that helps with like getting our employees completely like set up and whatever they need to actually create the game or whatever support function they have. But then we also have systems administrators on site. We have people that work with our server engineers. Like there's definitely like, it's a pretty vast team when you add in all those other people as well. So yeah, it's definitely something that we would need.
Okay.
Cool. Yes.
I have a question. How do
Yeah.
you ask for internship in the industry?
How do you ask one?
Yeah, how do you ask for one?
Oh, that's a good question.
Fine.
So we do applications for ours in the fall. We usually put them up in November. This year we had 22 interns. We're probably looking to grow that a little bit next year, maybe like 25 to 30. I would say some smaller studios that might not have, we've only put our process in place about a year ago. So studios that don't have something so formal put together, I would just shoot an email. You can find usually either their recruiters, someone on the management team, or someone in the office services team on LinkedIn, and just send them a private message saying like, hey, I'm super excited about you guys. Is there any way I can get an internship there? I would also say networking is huge. So going to the GGDA meetings, going to Siege, just trying to meet people in the different studios and just start having those conversations. Because we had a guy that we recently hired on, and that's pretty much exactly what he did. He came to our Smite World Championship, and then he found our CEO's email address. I'm not exactly sure how, but he just started. I don't ask these kind of questions. I just go with it. He just started like emailing him, just like, hey, I play Paladins. Like these are some things that might be like a good idea to add into the game. And then our CEO was like, just bring him on as an intern for our game design team. Like it makes sense at that point. So networking is huge for that. Cool. Yes.
How often do you get employees who, let's just say you hire an applicant, but the next year comes, they move into a completely different position? How often does that happen?
For us, often. Our company is pretty fluid, and we grew so quickly that we do have some, like one of our lead designers on Paladins right now used to be on our community team. And that happened, I want to say about 2 years ago. People get moved pretty often, at least for our company. And for our thought process is if this person is really good at their current role, and if they're hungry enough for this other role, we'll at least give them a shot. If it works out, awesome. And if not, that's okay. We at least still know that they're good at that other role. Maybe that could still be a fit in the future. So we'll at least, we're going to try. And yes.
Does Hi-Res have any big projects coming out? I know you guys just came out with Paladins, but how often are you looking to take on new projects? And
We have an incubation team, which is always working on new stuff. We haven't really announced anything at the moment, but it's there.
What do you look for someone to get on the incubation team? Is this someone that you wanted to already have years of game design experience within Hi-Res? Do you ever recruit outside talent?
For our incubation team right now, it's a lot of the people that are more in, they've been with the company just for a really long time, and they kind of know how our CEO thinks and operates. But as those teams kind of start taking off and grow, we're definitely looking people up at all skill levels. So, and that's kind of where Jetpack Fighter, our mobile game, came out of. It was on our incubation team about 1.5 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, and we released that back in January. But it was, I think, like a 3-person team that ended up growing to be about maybe an 18-ish person team. So, yes.
If I were to apply for a programming job, what would the test look like? Would you test me and say, make a program that can do this in whatever language? Or is it more like choice and what's the best way?
For us, it's a time test. I want to say we give 2 to 4 hours to complete it, and it has some questions regarding to program and theory, and then also questions in like program. I think one of our questions was at a different company was like program a dice that if you rolled it, like how many times it would come out with like both even numbers or something. So it's just going to be, something along those lines. Most of the times we just ask you to do it in some sort of text editor and send that back to us.
Okay.
Yes.
How often do you hire people who intern there?
Last year we had 16 interns we brought on, and I think we hired 12 of them. I think 2 went back to school, and some just really didn't work out. But yeah, most of them last year, and hopefully the same this year. We're kind of in those talks because our internship should be ending early August, so we'll be figuring that out soon. Yes.
Since you were
since you work in HR, I
Mhm.
know that programmers like to hop around in their career.
Mhm.
So you'll have people who work at maybe 6 or 7 different studios in their career.
Yeah.
Are there NDAs or these agreements to not work for competitors that you leave a position? Do companies like Hi-Res prohibit their workers from going to certain places after they're done there?
No. And you really, legally, we can't.
Right.
The only thing we can do is say that you can't talk about anything that you've learned of here. So if you worked, like, let's say on Paladins, which is somewhat similar to other, let's say, first-person shooter MOBAs that are coming out right now. If you learn anything, let's say, off the Paladins team, or if you know, like, new champions we have coming out, you can't go to Blizzard and be like, hey, go ahead, put this in Overwatch, it's coming out over there. Like, you just have to pretty much keep what you know siloed at each company. Like, during this time period, I did this, but you kind of have to, there's certain things you just can't talk about outside the company.
Okay.
Anything else? Yes.
I suppose, sorry, some of the programming questions.
Oh, no, you're fine.
But, how, let's say multiple programmers pass the test,
Mhm.
and I know that, you know, certain programmers are better because they're more organized,
Mhm.
they can get to a solution quicker,
Mhm.
but is that the only way you separate them? What I'm trying to say is, what makes one programmer better than the other if they both pass the test and they both seem they're great and they're both positive people?
Mhm.
Is there any particular, like, programming aspect that you guys are looking for?
Comments. Always leaving comments in your code explaining why you're doing what you're doing. I know that's huge. A lot of times, let's say if they are of comparable programming skill set, it might come down to other companies that they've worked at. Let's say if you worked at Google beforehand, we might be a little bit more interested in you than, let's say, if you worked at not Google, somewhere else. So
I saw a YouTube video about that, not Google.
not Google.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that would factor in educational background. Let's say if you went to school and actually got a computer science degree versus if you learned how to program at home. That's still amazing, but it all kind of factors in because you learn some other stuff from the school environment. You learn how to deal with the deadlines more, and it factors in. Other questions? Yes.
Is Hi-Res going to be showing up at any conferences in the U.S. for
We always do Siege.
panels?
So. Panels, I don't know. Todd, I'm blanking on what his title is right now. It is COO, sorry. He speaks at a lot of our esports conferences, and I think that one's coming up, I want to say, in September. But I don't know where else we'll be at in the future. But yeah, we try to. Yes.
For the Smite World Tournament coming up this year,
Mm-hmm.
I know last year was the first year you had Xbox competitors.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you're on the PS4, are you considering opening it up to PS4 consoles as well, or do you not foresee competitive console Smite players being anything in the Smite World Championship future?
The optimist in me says they probably will, but unfortunately they don't share that info with me. I don't know. Sorry. But I know they're going to be focusing, or not focusing, they're going to be showing off both Smite and Paladins. I think at the one coming up in January, they're calling it the Hi-Res Expo. So it's no longer just Smite focus. It'll be on both of them.
Very cool.
So it'll be good. I think you had a question back there?
Yeah, I'm going to ask $1 million question.
Yeah, please.
What kind of, for aspiring young graduates, what kind of salary ranges should they look forward to coming into game
Sure.
programming and art things?
I was going to say, it really depends on the job.
Yeah.
So I would say from my experience in the last 3 game studios, people coming fresh out of school for art, I would usually expect maybe somewhere around the 40K range. I would say someone coming out of school for programming would expect somewhere around the 60K range. Level design, game design, I would say it's going to be more towards what artists would get paid. Does that help?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm trying to think of other fields. HR, we make bank, I'm not going to lie. Completely kidding. Everyone should go into HR. I'm just... Yes.
Do you have like an estimate of how big your art department is?
Ooh. Yes. So our art team is set up very special at our company. For most parts, everything is really divided by IP. So our paladins, we have a paladins team, we have a smite team, and then other games as well. For our art team, we see them more as like a shared services. So our character artists will work on both games, and our environment artists will work on both games. So I would say for environment art, I want to say we have maybe 20 to 25. For character art, I would probably put them around the same. So I would probably say, and then concept, I think we have like another 10. So maybe around 50 to 60 in those fields. And then we have animation team and our character riggers and our VFX artists as well. They're kind of siloed off. They're special. So.
And do you have like a shortage in the area or like a type of artist you're always hungry for?
Tech artists and riggers we've found are very hard to find. So if you have a passion for art and for programming, that is something that is highly in demand. I would also say we had a lighting position open before I came to High Res. I think that was open for about 9 months. So lighting artists are very rare as well. Yeah, I would say those are probably the more difficult ones. And then I think it's also going to depend for each company. For our character team, they're very adamant that they want to see character pieces and portfolios that actually match what our characters look like. So I've noticed that, but let's say when I was at High Res or at CCP, they were not as strict, and they're like, we just want to see good pieces. So, you're welcome. Yes.
Is Scarlet Dangerfield your real name, and can I use you as a game character?
It is. I got married 10 years ago, and it's been issues with my husband because I never took his last name, and it's painful in our household. We don't talk about that. So,
I don't blame you.
yeah, I don't either. Good. Yes.
I do have a question. I know that Hi-Res makes a lot of multiplayer-based games.
Mm-hmm.
So AI is not really a big thing at Hi-Res from my understanding, but say someone who works on that here at college has made a couple of little enemy AIs or has done something that can switch between states and stuff like that. Is that at all looked for at Hi-Res or?
Yeah, definitely. Like even in Smite, it is a multiplayer game, but there are minions as well that are mostly AI controlled. We have a guy, I think, on our Paladins team. I don't know exactly what he's doing with AI, but I know that apparently he's made a massive difference since he's come onto that team. So it's definitely something that we look for and is extremely valuable to us. So, yeah. And I would say, I think at every company I've worked at, both CCP and Xavient, we always look for that as well. So it's huge. Cool.
Thank you.
Yes.
I didn't know that CCP Games had a studio in Georgia. Did you ever touch any of the big games like EVE Online or
EVE Online's done out of Iceland. There was a short period of time where we called them all hands on deck. So let's say, because it's a subscriber-based model for EVE, so if the subscribers went down, it was not pretty for the rest of the company. So there were short periods of time where we were working on a game called World of Darkness. It was an MMO, vampire-themed MMO, based off the old books of White Wolf Publishing. CCP bought out White Wolf, which was located in Atlanta, Georgia, and then they decided to take those books and make them into a digital format. So we were working on that game, and there was, I would say, periods when I was there where we would go 3 months, 9 months, where we would stop working on World of Darkness and doing all hands on deck for EVE. So like our level designers would stop and help with creating different modules, I guess, for that as well. So yeah.
So I think that's just such a unique game with the server, the shard server.
Yeah.
It's so awesome.
That, it's stunning. If you guys have never had a chance to look at it, it's just a really pretty game. So, and it's fun. Yeah. Cool. Yes.
What games do you yourself like playing?
Right now, Pokemon Go is all I can. It's good, but it's so awful at the same time. Like I have problems. I do play Smite. We don't have to play Smite at High Res, but I do play Smite. And I'm just a massive 5 fan. I probably spend way too many hours on that as well. So, yes.
I do have another question because I wasn't able to get this from a certain other person.
Okay.
Are you under contract to where if I ask you what your favorite console is, can you answer that?
Yes.
What's your favorite console?
I don't know. I feel like Why do you ask?
I have no feeling. I just wanted to know. Everyone usually has a preference. That's surprising.
Yeah. I like Smash Brothers. I don't know.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a favorite.
Yeah. I mostly I default to playing on my PC, but if I had to make that choice. So. Cool. Yes.
I'm gonna pick your brain. Out of all the resumes that
Mhm.
you looked at, can you remember one that just struck you?
No. I look at a lot, unfortunately, and I think they say like on average a recruiter will look at a resume for about 20 seconds, so they don't really hold your opinion or your attention for a long time. I'm more focused usually on portfolios when it comes to the artists. For programmers, whenever I'm looking at them, I'm mostly looking for either if they know the coding language and what are they, like where they go to school, what kind of companies have they worked at in the past. I would throw a lot of resumes away if they're unclear. So people, for some reason, they have like fads in the resumes, which is weird to me because it's just about what you do. But there's like times where they're like, oh, you need to do it in paragraph form. Please don't. I don't read that. It's too much for me. I like just like the bullet points. I like it being like super concise. Like I can program in these 15 languages. Here they are. I get that. Maybe not 15. That's a lot, but just being very like clear and concise of what you can do. That's really all I'm looking for in that. So. Cool. Any other questions? Yes.
Out of curiosity, just because you brought it up, what's your favorite class to play in Smite?
Pardon me? Sorry.
What's your favorite class of player to play in Smite? Are you more of a guardian person, hunter person?
I like to play Neath. And I know that's the intro character, everyone likes it, but she's
really good.
easy, she's fun. Easy is probably the wrong word.
You can do some serious damage with her. Like,
yeah.
She's one of the easiest melt characters there is.
Yeah, and honestly, I just like her. Like our animation team's amazing. Like they really try to give them different characteristics for each of the animations, or for each of the players' characters. And she's just fun. I just think she's a fun character. So, yeah. Cool. Any other? Yes. It's
One question. Is getting into the game industry is as hard as people say it is? Gonna be like so difficult. You're not gonna get into it. Like, is it really that difficult?
I think if you try, you can do anything. And I know that's very cliche, sorry. I think some people will have an easier time than others. I think programmers have an easier time than, let's say, the environment artists, like I was mentioning earlier. But we have a character artist on our team, and I don't know if you guys have ever checked out our website. There's a series of like how to get into the games industry videos on there. They go through each different kind of function in the company. They're pretty educational. But one of our character artists was on there, and he was saying, he's actually became our lead character artist, so he's phenomenal at what he does. But he was saying that he went a really long period of time where he just could not get a job. And what he did was he pretty much would update his demo reel, usually every 2 to 3 weeks, with just new characters that he was working on. And the fact that people could see the progression and see that he was actually at least he kept trying. He didn't just give up and just think that, oh, the demo reel that I made in college 2-3 years ago is still good enough. He kept making it better. Was huge. That's what you want to see, and it's a lot of work, but it's completely worth it.
You said how to get in the game industry videos?
Yeah, there's we have a series of YouTube videos on our website. HighResStudios.com. I think they're usually about maybe 3 to 5 minutes each, but they kind of go pretty in depth for each different function what they did. Questions? How much, or where are we?
We are currently
We're
at
over.
3:49, so we got
Excellent.
about 10 minutes,
Okay.
I think. I'm not mistaken.
It's over.
There
you go.
I thought you were running.
That's cool.
5
Cool.
minutes over.
All right, well, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you.